We found out we were going to Tikrit, Iraq, and they were saying it was a pretty hot environment at the time, which it was. And like we ended up doing that deployment, 120 missions and that 90-day deployment. We were doing 90 days at a time before we went to the 120 to keep up with Delta's rotation. But the 90-day, 120 missions was like average for...
You did 120 missions in 90 days?
Yeah.
What's going through your head when you figure out you're going to Tikrit, Iraq?
I was scared. I thought it was going to be like Saving Private Ryan, where you get off for me, I thought when we lower the ramp on the C-17, it's because we get picked up in our backyard. So we don't go to like an airport. It's not announced when we're leaving. It's just the C-17 lands in the back runway behind our compound. You get on and we fly to Germany. From Germany, we go to where we're going. I thought when they lower the ramp, it was going to be bullets flying. I'm going to come out charging, and that's how you enter war. But instead, it was the exact opposite. And I kind of got that picture as a new guy when I was also high on Ambien. I took the Ambien pill before I was supposed to, and I didn't know what Ambien was. I knew it was a sleeping aid, but I took it before I was supposed to. So I had to fight staying awake while on this C-17 waiting to taxi off the runway. And as I'm sitting there waiting, I started to see faces pop out of the chairs. I'm hallucinating, like I'm cracked off this Ambien, and I'm hallucinating, and I'm seeing stuff. And my team leader, Salazar, he's like, did you take your Ambien before? And I'm like, yes, I'm tripping. And he's like, dude, just wait. Finally get an opportunity to sleep. But yeah, we get off the C-17, we're running off, or I think we're gonna run off, and I don't have a mag for my gun with bullets. I'm like, where did we get bullets? Did I miss that meeting where they handed out the bullets before we go on this deployment? And I'm saying to myself, well, when we run off the C-17, I'm gonna pick up the first guy's ammo that drops, like Saving Private Ryan. But
you legitimately thought that's what
I thought that's how we come into war. And they lowered the ramp, and you see people walking around, little coffee bean shops and Burger King joints and stuff like that, and food places, and it smelled like not bad. It smelled like, well, Iraq, but where we first landed at, it just smelled normal. I didn't smell like bombs and anything like that, burning bodies. No, it was pretty chill when we landed. Drove to our compound. It's a compound within the big compound, but it's all sectioned off with big 12-foot T-barriers and satellite communications in there, and you have to have a badge to get into this compound and stuff like that. It was pretty neat. And within the first 8 hours we were in country is when we got our first mission. And I remember going out that night, landing we were on a Black Hawk helicopter, feet hanging out off the side doors, and we land and get off, and I see them raid this home. I'm a machine gunner at the time, so I'm pulling security and just hearing the stuff going on and inside and how they got to the
What
objective.
was the op?
Direct action. We were going to go kill or capture a high-value target. And they got there. The assault teams went in, did their thing, and looking at it through nods was just like, it was like watching the news almost. It didn't feel like I was really there. It was like an outer body experience, of watching these guys do their thing. And I had been watching them my entire training cycle, but seeing them in combat do it, and I wasn't sure if it was a 9-banger going off or just a regular banger, or if it was gunshots going off inside this little home we were raiding. But it was cool seeing them do that, and I got a chance for the first time to see how fast they were and how good they were. But it was just surreal. Like, I didn't feel like I was really there. Like, did I really earn my spot to be here as a new guy? Or I didn't feel like I was ready yet. I didn't feel like I was ready yet. 6 months went by really fast.
Yeah.
So I felt like that, but got into the groove really quick. I had a really good team leader.
Were there any engagements on that first op?
Not the first one, no. Just bangers going off that I thought were, gunshots, but it was just, I guess, a normal routine op. We didn't start getting into firefights until maybe a few ops after that. It it happened pretty quick. Within the first 3 or 4 ops, 5 ops, we were getting into pretty good contact.
How long after you got in the country were you on your first operation?
8 hours. Yeah,
8 hours.
Yeah, 8 hours. Sometimes it's fast. We've done some where as soon as you land, you're getting geared up and you're heading out the door within a few hours. It's really quick.
Wow.
And I think the way we trade off. So there's always a battalion overseas. So for us being 3rd Ranger Battalion, we would replace the outgoing battalion, which would be 1st. Our 1st would come in to replace us. So we were replacing 2nd. And the way we would pass off information and the packages and the intel that we've gathered, we just pick it up and continue on with the missions that they were going to be doing anyways if they would have stayed for another 3 months or so. And we build our intel and stuff like that from the homes that we raid and build more packages and stuff that way.
So if I remember correctly, on your first deployment, you did 120 operations within 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
We
were doing multiple a day sometimes too.
5 or 6. After 5 or 6 is when you started getting into full-blown engagements.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the first operation where you and your team or team got into an engagement.
Yeah. We were in...
What was the operation?
It was regarding Zarqawi. Around that time, we weren't going after him yet. It was around that time, going after somebody else. With the group the guys that he ran with. And I remember landing on the Blackhawks. We get off and walking to the objective. We were walking down this long field through like palm groves. And we get to this compound with like scattered buildings around it. And my back is up against this brick wall, partly destroyed brick wall. My team leader is next to me, and I have, we call him Ramrod, another machine gunner next to me. I'm a machine gunner, and we're waiting for the snipers to gain position to overwatch the objective before the assault team goes in. And I started hearing, at first I thought my Peltor, my hearing protection, I thought that I forgot to change batteries and it was malfunctioning because I heard these weird clicks and snaps in my hearing protection. And all of a sudden, I can feel like gravel crumbling and hitting my helmet and my back a little bit. The next thing I felt was my team leader shoving me to the ground, rams down on the ground, and I'm confused, like, what is going on? And he's like, dude, we're getting shot at, and that's what that noise was. I thought gunshots were like the movies are boom, boom, you hear that, and not that snap that goes by. That's what I was hearing, thinking that my hearing protection was like malfunctioning. So he pins me on the ground, and I started to hear the snipers engaging on the rooftop, and I'm hearing the snaps come in more and more. We pick up, change positions, set up a support by fire line. The assault team goes on the rooftop, and I think they smoked like 14 guys or 15 guys up there. Like we have a newspaper article. I have a newspaper article from that engagement. Helicopter goes down, a little bird hits a power line, it goes down, and I see that, and I never saw anything like that. It just looked like maybe he popped flares or something. I was not sure what had happened, but then I see the helicopter go down into this big, wide open field. Then we get the call over comms, helo's down, we have to go rescue this helicopter pilot and get him out. So they're still engaged in the main objective. A small team, me, my team leader, 2 or 3 other guys, we all pick up and we run to the down helicopter, like a mile away, a little less than a mile away. We pick up, run there. It's the fastest I've ever ran a mile in full kit. We get there and you see the helicopter pilot, the little bird pilot, like huddled down. He had a small MP5, like the short MP5s.
Mm-hmm.
He had one of those and his eyes are as big as, saucers, man. And he's scared. we set up a support by fire line overlooking him. And that's when AC-130 started kicking in and laying down people they were all coming in from that village nearby, coming to get the pilot and helicopter pieces. I don't know. And yeah, that was a pretty intense operation on that one.
Damn.
That was the first time that I was engaged and had to like witness and experience that. Yeah. Everything after, I never pulled the trigger. Like, that was the first time I would say, not out of fear, but more so out of like, I didn't know what I was shooting at. It was to put fire down in this general direction, and you traverse and search, if I'm correct, where you traverse and search with like a heartbeat. You're doing that with your machine gun and helping the AC-130 and all the other things we had going on, mortars and stuff. But I never line my laser up on someone and pull the trigger on them. That didn't happen till shortly after. And it was weirdly with an M4. I had been a Mark 48 gunner that entire time, but I also drove Strikers that deployment. So I was to go to Striker driver school in Seattle, it's in Washington State. It's where, I forget the place now. It's in Washington State. If I remember, I'll bring it up. But it's where we drive Strikers and learn how to drive Strikers. It's that 40-ton vehicle. So I was a driver, and as a driver, you keep your M4 in the cockpit with you. And I was the guy that, would pop out the hatch and use my M4 if need be. And my first real engagement where I saw a body drop was, I take that back. I'm going too far ahead. The first person I ever saw was the 50 cal guy. And that was my first experience with killing someone, but he was not shooting at us. He had a vehicle full of the ID, a V-bed. But in the back at the time, they had the, what's that chemical that you clean pools with?
Chlorine.
Chlorine, yeah. They had the back full of chlorine and explosives, like a chlorine bomb or whatever. That was their thing then. That was the first time I ever had to engage a person on the top of a Striker on the 50 cal. And when I got the call to engage this guy, I was like, why? And he's coming V-lining straight towards us in our convoy, and he's, maneuvering to come right at us. And I wasn't understanding what was going on. Never trained for that, And he's like, my PL slaps me on the helmet, and he's shoot this mother, cussing me out. And I'm like, all right, put the sights on the hood of the car, this white car, and put the butterfly switches on it, the butterfly trigger, and skip the rounds, 9-round burst from the hood all the way into the driver's seat. And poof, he went, veered off the road. We got out, and the assaulters did, and, did their little SSE and investigated what had happened and found the explosives. And yeah, but when they opened the car, I remember him spilling out the car.
How did that feel, knowing that you had just taken another man's life for the first time?
Did not make sense to me. It didn't make sense until I got back and I went to sleep. And that's when I had my first weird dream of, I didn't feel anything. It didn't feel real because it's not what I expected. I thought it was going to be like in the movies,
Big decision-making process.
Yeah. This was like, I'm not even being shot at. This guy's just driving at us at a high rate of speed, and I didn't train for that, And yeah, it was a weird feeling. I didn't have a disconnect. I didn't feel anything. But I went to bed that night, and that's when I had the dream of that guy was the ceiling fan, and his arms were the blades, and his head was the centerpiece where the light would be. And he started spinning, and I'm strapped to my bed, and it's spinning faster and faster until his body starts to rip apart in my room, and he just soaks my room with blood, and I'm bathing in his blood, and his face stayed still and was just screaming, but no sound was coming out. And that's when I was like, oh, I guess, I don't know what I just felt. I woke up scared, but I guess that was the first real moment where I had a chance to say to myself, man, I killed someone, But after that, it was not a normal thing, but it was as a machine gunner back then, it was a lot of shooting, you know, a lot of yeah, a lot of laying down fire during ambushes and things of that nature. So it was different, but it was not what I expected. The first time I shot someone with an M4 was I was hanging out the hatch of the striker, and my guys were just the assaulters were in this. It was almost like a trench warfare scenario where they had this trench thing. There were foreign fighters, and they had this trench system that the assaulters had to fight through. My vehicle blocked off the portion of the road so they couldn't skirt across. One guy did, and I remember I'm parked next to another striker, Rico 2 or whatever, and I remember him looking at this guy, and he puts his laser on the guy, and his floodlight, when his floodlight hits him, that's when you see the AK. And he's running back looking at our guys, and he's running with an AK. That guy starts shooting, my guy starts shooting at him. So I'm like, well, we got to light this guy up. And my first time doing that with an M4, I hit the safety, or not the safety, I hit the mag release on the side of my M4. Mag falls out, click, boom, one bullet comes out, hit the guy in the back, and he falls down, tumbles, and that was like the first experience I had with shooting a person and seeing the laser go on the guy and pulling a trigger and watching him collapse. But I wasn't like the sole contributor. I don't think I killed him myself. It was a joint thing where he was being shot up by
lots of lasers.
Yeah. It was my first experience, but with that though, But I don't contribute to no, my bullet did. It was a few lasers lighting this guy up. Yeah. And it was like that for pretty much that entire deployment. Was just a lot of direct action. But the firefights were never to where we thought that we were being overrun or going to lose a firefight. It was pretty one-sided and was over pretty quick.